The Academy's secret curriculum. The Galactic Alliance Military Academy orbited the neutron star Vex-9, its crystalline spires glittering against the dark vacuum of space. For 12 millennia, it had produced the finest military officers in the known universe, representatives of over 300 species who would go on to command the Alliance's vast peacekeeping forces. Commander Dravex stood before the viewing window of his office, his forearms clasped behind his back as he watched the newest batch of cadets arriving on shuttlecraft. His exoskeleton clicked softly as he shifted his weight. "They look promising," remarked Senior Instructor Jalti, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with a soft blue glow. "They always do," Dravex replied. "Until the Earth module." Jalti's skin dimmed slightly, her species equivalent of a grimace. "Is that really necessary every cycle? We lose half our candidates. Better to lose them here than in the field," Dravex said, repeating the phrase that had become the unofficial motto of the Academy's leadership. "The Council has made its decision. Humans will be joining the Alliance within 5 solar cycles. We need officers who can handle that reality." 3 days later, 200 cadets filed into the immersive simulation chamber for their first lecture on primitive species combat analysis. The chamber was a perfect hemisphere, with adaptive seating that accommodated everything from methane-breathing gas giants to silicon-based crystalloids. Professor Kelnar, a veteran of 17 interstellar conflicts, slithered to the center platform. His serpentine body coiled as he activated the holographic display. "Today we begin our analysis of pre-spacefaring species and their combat methodologies," he announced, his forked tongue flickering between words. "Understanding lesser-evolved civilizations is crucial to the Alliance's mission of peaceful integration." A Vordaxian cadet near the front raised a tentacle. "Professor, my pre-academy briefing mentioned we'd be studying Earth. Isn't that a waste of time? They haven't even colonized their own solar system." Several other cadets chittered or hummed in agreement, the universal sign of academic disdain across species. Professor Kelnar's scales shifted to a deep crimson, a warning sign his former soldiers would have recognized immediately. The cadets, however, missed the cue. "Cadet Zontar," Kelnar said with dangerous calm, "would you care to share what else you know about humans?" The Vordaxian's tentacles twisted in confidence. They're carbon-based bipeds with no natural defenses, no redundant organs, no significant physical strength, and limited sensory capacity. Their technological development has been erratic at best. They spent thousands of years using projectile weapons before developing even basic atomic theory. "Anything else?" Kelnar prompted. "They're highly territorial and prone to intraspecies conflict," Zontar continued, clearly enjoying the attention. "Their recorded history is primarily a succession of wars fought over resources, ideologies, and sometimes seemingly nothing at all." Professor Kelnar uncoiled slightly, an accurate if superficial assessment. "Does this sound like a species we should study seriously?" "Hardly," called out another cadet, a crystalloid whose silica body refracted light in complex patterns. "My nutrient absorption cycle is more tactically sophisticated than human warfare." Laughter rippled through the chamber in various forms, bubbling, clicking, vibrating, and flashing. Professor Kelnar allowed it to continue for precisely 10 seconds before pressing a control on his datapad. The chamber darkened. The central hologram expanded to encompass the entire hemisphere. "This," Kelnar said quietly, "is Earth's First World War." The simulation engulfed them. Suddenly, the cadets found themselves in a mud-filled trench. The smell hit them first: death, excrement, unwashed bodies, cordite, and gas. Then came the sound, a never-ending barrage of explosions that violated the sensory membranes of every being present. Projectiles whistled overhead. Bodies, mangled and broken, lay half-submerged in the muck. "This conflict," Kelnar continued, his voice supernaturally calm, "lasted 4 Earth years, over 20 million casualties." The scene shifted. Now they were in a city being consumed by fire. The atmosphere burned their respiratory systems. Screams echoed from every direction as incandescent light obliterated the night sky. Dresden, Earth year 1945. The Second World War. Total casualties, approximately 85 million. Again the scene changed. Now a mushroom cloud bloomed on the horizon, its terrible beauty transfixing even the most battle-hardened instructor. Hiroshima. The first deployment of atomic weapons against a civilian population. For 90 minutes, the simulation continued. Cambodia, Vietnam, the Middle East, Africa. The water wars of the 2030s. The cadets witnessed it all, not as distant observers but as immersed participants. They felt the concussive force of explosions, smelled the burning flesh, heard the screams of the dying. When the lights finally came back on, several cadets had evacuated their digestive systems. A few had lost consciousness. Even the crystalloid, who had been so dismissive, had fractured stress lines running through its silicon form. Professor Kellner's scales had returned to their neutral green. Your assignment for tomorrow: explain why a species with no natural defenses, redundant organs, or significant physical advantages managed to develop the most devastating forms of warfare the galaxy has ever witnessed. In the stunned silence that followed, he added, "And Cadet Zontar, I suggest you recalibrate your definition of tactically sophisticated." As the cadets filed out in shocked silence, Commander Dravek stepped from the shadows where he had been observing. "Too intense?" Kellner asked. "No," Dravek replied. "They need to understand. Tomorrow will be worse. Half will resign," Kellner predicted. "As I said," Dravek repeated, "better here than in the field." That night, in dormitory pods across the academy, cadets sat in silent contemplation. Some reviewed additional footage from Earth's conflicts. Others sought medical intervention for the psychological trauma of the simulation. A few began drafting their resignation letters. In the communal space of Dormitory Cluster 7, Cadet Ilara, a Proximian with photosynthetic skin, finally broke the silence. "Did any of you notice something strange about the footage?" The others looked up, their various sensory organs focusing on her. "The humans," she continued, "they knew the danger. They knew they would likely die. Yet they advanced anyway. Primitive survival instinct, dismissed a gelatinous Medusan." "No," Ilara insisted. "It was more than that. When that human jumped on the explosive device to save others, that wasn't instinct, that was sacrifice." "Perhaps," said Zontar, unusually subdued, "we have more to learn from Earth than I initially thought." As lights dimmed across the academy for the sleep cycle, half the cadets lay awake, confronting a terrifying realization. The galaxy's most dangerous species wasn't some silicon-based predator or energy-consuming void dweller. It was the fragile, short-lived, emotionally unstable bipeds of Earth. The revelation and aftermath. The next morning, only 117 cadets returned to the simulation chamber. The empty seats spoke volumes about the impact of yesterday's lesson. Professor Kellner noted the absences without comment. "Yesterday," he began, "you witnessed the destructive capacity of humanity. Today, we examined something perhaps more concerning: their adaptability." The hologram activated once more, but instead of battlefields, it displayed a sequence of military innovations spanning Earth's history. "Observe," Kellner continued. "When faced with cavalry, humans developed the pike. Against the pike, they created firearms. Against firearms, they designed tanks. Against tanks, they deployed anti-tank weapons. For every defense, an offense. For every offense, a defense. Their entire military history is an exercise in tactical evolution at a speed unmatched by any known species." The display shifted to show a human military think tank. Strategists huddled around a table, debating approaches, challenging assumptions, and wargaming scenarios. Unlike most sentient species, Kellner explained, humans practice constant self-critique. They actively search for flaws in their own strategies. After each conflict, regardless of outcome, They conduct extensive reviews to identify failures and implement improvements. Cadet Ilara raised a photosynthetic appendage. Professor, this contradicts established synapsychology. Species typically evolve toward cooperation as they advance technologically. Correct, Kelnar acknowledged. Which brings us to the most disturbing aspect of human warfare, its relationship with human progress. The hologram expanded to display a timeline of human technological advancement. Key military conflicts were highlighted in red, with scientific breakthroughs appearing in blue. Note the correlation, Kelnar said. Radar, nuclear fission, jet propulsion, space exploration, the internet, advanced medicine, all either developed during conflicts or derived from military research. A collective murmur of disbelief rippled through the chamber. War drives their innovation, Kelnar continued. Unlike every other known spacefaring species, humans have not needed peace to advance. They have weaponized the scientific method itself. The Medusan cadet wobbled anxiously. Professor, if humans are this dangerous, why is the Alliance considering their admission? Kelnar exchanged a glance with Commander Dravex, who had again been observing from the shadows. After a moment, Dravex stepped forward. That, he said, is the true purpose of this module. The commander activated his own control pad. The hologram shifted again, now showing a vast armada of ships unlike anything the cadets had seen before. The Devourer Swarm, Dravex announced, currently at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy, moving toward Alliance space at 1/4 light speed. Our projections indicate contact within 20 years. Silence fell over the chamber. The Devourers are not like us, Dravex continued. They are not individuals. They are not rational. They consume biomass and convert it to more of themselves. Diplomacy is impossible. Conventional warfare has proven ineffective in simulation. The Alliance faces an existential threat. Understanding began to dawn across the varied faces of the cadets. You're recruiting humans for their warfare capabilities, Ilara whispered. Precisely, Dravex confirmed. Humanity will join the Alliance not as subjects to be governed, but as military partners. Their unique approach to conflict may be our only hope against the swarm. The hologram changed again, now showing human diplomats meeting with Alliance representatives. This is happening now, Dravex said. Earth has accepted our invitation. They will be granted limited access to our technology in exchange for military consultation. They remain unaware of the swarm. For now, we are proceeding cautiously. A silicon-based cadet fractured slightly in agitation. This is madness. You're giving advanced technology to the most warlike species in the galaxy. The Alliance Council debated this decision for 3 centuries. Dravex replied calmly. The alternative is extinction. Professor Kelnar slithered forward. Which brings us to your true assignment. Half of you have already resigned, unwilling to face the reality of human warfare. Of those remaining, many of you will leave after today's revelation. Those who stay will become the officers responsible for integrating humans into Alliance forces. He fixed them with his unblinking gaze. Your task is not to control humans or restrain them. It is to learn from them. To understand how a physically inferior species with a fraction of our lifespan has developed martial prowess that terrifies beings who have conquered interstellar travel. The chamber fell silent as the cadets contemplated this paradigm shift. There will be a 1-hour recess, Dravex announced. When you return, if you return, we will begin specialized training for human integration. Dismissed. As the cadets filed out, their bioluminescence, chromatophores, and energy signatures betraying their emotional turmoil, Ilara lingered. Commander, she said when the others had gone, these humans, have they ever faced extinction before? Dravex's exoskeleton clicked as he turned to her. Multiple times, self-inflicted and external. They have always survived. And the ones who joined the Alliance diplomatic mission, how did they react when you told them we needed their war expertise? Dravex and Kelnar exchanged glances. They laughed, Kelnar admitted. Then their lead diplomat said something I still don't fully comprehend. He said, "Finally, someone who appreciates us for our bad qualities." After the recess, only 53 cadets returned. Ilara was among them, as was, surprisingly, Zonter. The Vordaxian had been the most dismissive of humans initially, but now seemed deeply contemplative. As Professor Kilnar began outlining the integration protocols, a new hologram appeared, a live feed from the diplomatic chambers. A human representative was shaking hands with the Alliance High Chancellor. "It begins," Dravex murmured. Across the academy, in classrooms and dormitories, the news spread. Humans were coming, not as subjects or curiosities, but as teachers. The species that many had dismissed as primitive was now the Alliance's greatest hope. In the simulation chamber, the remaining cadets watched with a mixture of fear and fascination as the human diplomat smiled at the camera. To the untrained eye, it might have seemed friendly. But to cadets who had spent hours studying human warfare, it looked remarkably like a predator baring its teeth. "Prepare yourselves," Professor Kilnar told the cadets. "You are about to become the first generation of Alliance officers to work directly with humanity. Study their history, learn their methods, but never, ever forget what you saw in yesterday's simulation." As the class ended, Cadet Ilara approached Commander Dravex. "Sir," she said quietly, "what happens if the humans discover the truth about why we recruited them before we're ready to tell them?" Dravex's compound eyes fixed on her. "Then, Cadet, we will learn whether humans truly are as rational as we hope." In her dormitory that night, Ilara reviewed the footage from Earth's wars once more. But this time, she focused not on the destruction, but on the aftermath. Humans rebuilding. Humans creating art from the ashes of devastation. Humans forgiving former enemies. Perhaps, she thought, the Alliance had focused too much on humanity's capacity for war, and not enough on their capacity for peace. The question that kept her awake was simple. When the Devourer swarm came, would humanity save the galaxy through their mastery of war, or their equally remarkable ability to make peace from the ruins of conflict? She suspected the Alliance would soon find out.